last month's Careers Live. So great to see that lots of our apprentices out in the community exploring how you can use the subjects that you really like studying at school to inform your career choices, and developing all of those softer yet essential skills from the Skills Builder framework to get ready for the move from school to work. If you've missed any of our previous streams, all the streams are now available on YouTube. We'll put the link in the chat on Zoom and the comments on YouTube.
Thanks, Heather. I mean, it's fair to say that the role of HR has certainly had to face many different new dilemmas during COVID. Well, actually, I think it seems like the whole world of work has changed since COVID hit us. And all that time during the pandemic, we've been spending more time on Zoom and calls like this, more time collaborating virtually, really with much less time in the office and seeing colleagues face to face and having that personal contact. But now things are changing and things have really improved. Our HR teams have been considering how they can keep our colleagues engaged and help our people and our business be their best in what is really an ever-changing environment.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably worth starting with what even is HR. So for those of you that don't know, it stands for human resources. So quite simply, that is all about our people. So our people at Lloyds Banking Group and at all organisations are your most precious resource. They're your most high value asset. They make Lloyds Banking Group everything that it is. They make the difference to the lives of our colleagues, to our customers, and to our wider communities. And I would say that the role of our HR colleagues is to support the business to enable our people to thrive and enable our business to meet its objectives. So there are so many different disciplines in HR, which we won't have time to go into today. We've got recruitment, we've got learning and development, we've got reward, performance management, people partnering, which is what I do, just to name a few. Sometimes we spend our time here working out how to find solutions to lots of different situations, usually very complex situations that involve people, but there's loads more to say on that, and I'll come back to that later.
Yes, definitely. You guys a chance to practice and get your thoughts on what you think about some HR dilemmas that we've got for you later on today. So I suppose it raises the question, really, what do all these HR people do? Well, that is exactly what we're here to talk about this evening. And the world of HR is actually full of stereotypes, and we've picked some, Heather, haven't we, that we want to dig into. Just a bit of fun, really. But the first one then is that people in HR mainly deal with things like making the tea for people and dealing with sort of admin-y paperwork sort of stuff. So, Heather, is that your experience in working in HR?
So I love tea. I'm actually more of a coffee drinker. But actually, as HR professionals, we sit as part of the team. So peer-to-peer, we're working alongside the business. So I will happily make somebody a cup of tea, but it's definitely not my job.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So I've got one of those stereotypes for you, Elaine. So the second stereotype is about HR being all about dealing with people's problems and being a real people person. So sitting in lots of one-to-one meetings with people with lots of tissues, ready to mop up tears, generally being nice, being a good listener. What do you reckon, Elaine?
Well, I think there's definitely more to it than being a good listener and being nice and carrying around the box of tissues. But it isn't really like that stereotype. Although what I will say is we are nice people and we are good listeners. So that's something. I mean, I think you'll probably find in most organisations, as we know, our line managers are generally the first port of call for any colleagues that've got a challenge or they need some support or anything, with an issue. So in summary, Heather, no, I do not think that is an accurate reflection of HR in terms of any HR role at all, really.
Yeah, and sometimes we have to make very difficult decisions, don't we? We have to influence the business to make a commercial judgment sometimes, and being a very friendly, positive person is super important. But you also need to be brave, you need to have judgment. So not always easy.
No, that's right. But what job is easy these days, Heather? I mean, I've got I think one of the things that people often think about HR, if it is a career path that they want to get into, is that they need lots of experience. And because of that, it's actually really hard to get into with zero experience. So I thought it'd be good to ask you this one, Heather, because I'd be interested to know your thoughts on that, because you actually joined us as an HR graduate, I think, didn't you?
Yeah. So I joined the group, and this seems crazy to say, 8 years ago now on the graduate scheme. So, and actually, probably only about 3 years ago did I really feel like I could say I'm a fully fledged HR professional. It really is an industry that takes time to learn, to practice. And yes, sometimes the things that we're doing are based on policy or based on employment law, but actually the majority of the time, particularly in my job, it's about judgment, and you learn that through experience. So what is fantastic about the opportunity that you have at Lloyds is the encouragement and investment that you have in learning and growing, and the people that you're surrounded by. So LBG has a fantastic reputation for empowering people to be their best, unblocking and creating opportunities to grow and learn. Genuinely really has a really supportive culture where growth and development is not only encouraged, it's expected. You're expected to be curious, to ask questions, and to be supported in your growth. So you're really supported by and surrounded by the nicest possible people who have bags of experience and knowledge to share with you. So no, you don't need lots of experience. Everyone has to start their career somewhere. The good news is that if you're leaving school this summer, is that the door is open to you now. So we are currently recruiting for school leaver apprenticeships in HR for a start and experience. And the point with that is you are not expected to have any experience whatsoever. What's important is you have the right strengths and the aptitude to learn, and that you're curious and that you ask questions. So the roles that we'll talk about a little bit later are a great opportunity to start your HR career with us, and we'll share a link with you for more information on those later in the course today.
Yeah, brilliant. Look forward to that. And I mean, it does sound like they are a great opportunity, so hopefully you guys will see that there are lots of myths out there about HR roles. And if we had more time, you know what, I could probably think of at least another 20, but that's not why we're on the call today. I think what's more helpful and important use of your time is, if you are in school or college, which you're likely to be in right now, is we make sure that you've actually got real legit information on how to make it in HR and people as a whole. And that's really what tonight is all about. So coming up in tonight's stream, we're going to be exploring what we do and what do we really mean by human resources and people.
Yeah, so this evening we'll be introducing you to Gary, Hayley, Siobhan and Candice, who also, alongside me and Elaine, also all work in HR for Lloyds Banking Group. So they will be talking us through their learning journeys, as well as how some of them got onto apprenticeship programs in the past, so their experiences of that. We want to really dig into the learning journey to understand how you go from having zero knowledge, HR knowledge and experience, to becoming an HR professional, and what's really involved with that.
So we've got lots of things to tell you about, lots to get through. So shall we get going, Heather?
Yes. So if you've got any questions on your mind during the session, then our role is to help you get those answered. So we've got Ian from our talent team, who you'll see is posting in the chat. He's manning the chat this evening, so you can post any questions either in Zoom chat if you're joining us on Zoom, or in the comments if you're joining us on YouTube. We'll do our best to answer those. So let's have a look at that function now and find out where everyone is joining us from. So where is everybody joining us from today? So we've got East London, Leeds, York. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Harrogate. Bradford, that's my hometown.
Yeah, I can see Essex, good old Essex. New York, we've got someone joining us from, near York, I think that was, not New York. New glasses, should have gone to Specsavers. I can actually see these coming up, Heather, so that's good. Yeah, Bristol, Edinburgh, brilliant. And
this is fantastic, isn't it, Elaine? Because a couple of our roles that we've got advertised at the moment are up in Edinburgh, Bristol, Halifax. So.
Yeah, great. Well, it's great to see such a spread of locations, but I do feel that we need to find out a little bit more about who we've got on the call today. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little poll with you, and you're going to see that come up on your screen. So the first poll is, what stage of education are you currently in? So is it GCSEs, A-levels or equivalent, uni, apprenticeship, full-time employment or other? And the idea of this is so we've got a bit of an idea that we can shape everything that we're going to tell you this evening. Okay, I can see a few coming through.
There's a little bit of a mix.
Yeah. Some people, like half of them are on A-levels or equivalent, aren't they, Heather?
Yeah. So nobody currently on an apprenticeship.
No, well, hopefully that will change.
So
Brilliant.
yeah, a little bit of a mix. A-levels, I can see that are coming through on the chat as well. Fab. So we are really curious to know how much you already know about careers in HR on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest. So there will be a separate poll that will come up shortly. So how confidently do you understand the opportunities ahead for careers in HR and people, notwithstanding the absolutely expert explanation given to you at the beginning of the call by me and Elaine? Okay, so kind of middle of the road.
Yeah, fair enough.
Fab. No one 5 out of 5. But to be fair, I'm not sure I could say 5 out of 5.
No.
So
No, I think that's fair enough. Okay, brilliant. Right, let's have a look. We'll see the results there. You can see all the results there, hopefully, on your screen now. If we're pressing the right buttons, Heather, I think it'll work. So yeah, brilliant. Right, I'm going to close that now. Excellent. So just a very quick word on accessibility. So if you need closed caption support for this evening, then we have actually made that available in Zoom. You just need to enable it, and on YouTube, auto subtitling is already enabled. So if you do need to take a break and you miss anything, then the whole of tonight's live stream is available for replay on YouTube as soon as our show closes this evening at 7 p.m. tonight. So we have mentioned that Ian, who's just posted now, in our colleague Ian in the background there to answer your questions. And we've also got Gareth, who is our event producer, sitting on a special chair in the background, who makes, actually that's probably more the director, isn't it? Anyway, Gareth, you make all the tech work for us, so we are very, very thankful to you for that. So let's go and start chatting to people then, I think, Heather. I'll hand over to you now.
Let's introduce some of our guests. So our first guest this evening is Siobhan Davies. So Siobhan is currently on an HR apprenticeship. Siobhan, I wonder if you could start off, by giving us a bit of a whistle-stop tour of the level 5 HR apprenticeship that you completed. I'm sure people will be really keen to hear about how long the apprenticeship lasts, what are the key learning milestones, and your kind of journey and experience.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, Heather. So back in 2018, I started the level 5 apprenticeship, and it took me around 14 months to complete. During the programme, I covered multiple topics across the employee life cycle, such as performance management, reward, employment law and legislation. And there were probably some modules that I thought at the time, oh gosh, I don't think I'll ever need to use that in a career in HR in the future. Such as there was one around completing a critical review of information sources and creating reports using data. But once I got into the learning, I started to have some light bulb moments around, actually, this could quite easily translate into work that I'm currently doing at the moment. So really, really helpful sort of to be able to connect and join the dots along the way, instead of feeling at the beginning like you need to have it all planned out. So it was quite good how it had naturally sort of connected. There were a couple of other things around understanding the skills required by HR professionals, reviewing internal and external factors and assessing the impact that that would have on the HR function. So if we think back to the pandemic, that would be an external factor. And how do we think HR needed to react to support the business during that time? So things like mobilising working from home and changing any policies such as sick pay and things like that. And also I've touched on a little bit the introduction to employment law and legislation. That was probably my favourite module of the HR apprenticeship at the level 5. There's probably another example where I maybe thought, I don't think I have enough experience in that topic to be able to do my assignment justice. I think I then had to remind myself about how an apprenticeship isn't a test of what you already know. It's a learning experience and opportunity. You're supposed to learn new things. So I think I put a lot of pressure on myself to know it all already when I hadn't even sort of completed the course. So that was another sort of thing I had to remind myself about as we went through it. And when I was coming to do my recruitment module, I sort of spoke to my skills coach and said, I haven't done any type of recruitment before as a line manager or as a sort of specialist in the HR function. And he encouraged me to talk to my line manager and talk to some other people who work within the recruitment team to see what opportunities might be out there that I could maybe get involved in on top of the work that I was already doing at the time. And that was like a really positive outcome, that I was able to get involved in a couple of graduate assessment days and things like that to be able to expose myself and get that experience to just help when doing the learning as well. So yeah, that's a whistle-stop tour of the level 5.
And amazing that you were able to tap into the support of your coach, of your line manager at the right time.
Yeah.
And get those additional projects. What, in your opinion, are the most exciting parts of the programme?
So for me, it's meeting new people. So at the moment, I'm completing the level 7 senior HR professional apprenticeship. That is a cohort not only within LBG colleagues at Lloyds Banking Group, it's with other colleagues across different industries as well. So I've been able to sort of tap into and create new connections with people who work outside of financial services. That has been a game changer with another element of the learning experience. And not only that, it kind of links back to the point I made earlier about if you've not really worked within a certain HR discipline before, such as recruitment, you've got the opportunity to knock on people's doors who might sit in a centre of excellence learning team, as an example, to say, hey, I'm working through this piece of learning as part of my apprenticeship, and I'd love to know more about what you do day to day, or what are you working on at the moment. And linking back to Heather's point she made earlier at the start of the session, you are surrounded by people who just want to help you and help you be the best version of yourself. So you never get a door closed in your face. You always get a put some time in, let's grab a coffee, whether it's virtual or in the office, and let's just talk, catch up. I'll tell you what I know, you can tell me what you know. So definitely meeting people. And then secondly is the opportunity to do something that's a little bit different to your day job. My day job is quite varied anyway, as a people partner, as you will agree, Heather, I'm sure. But I get excitement from knowing that once I'm starting a new module within my apprenticeship, I'm going to be finishing it with new knowledge and potentially skills, behaviours, experience, which are all ultimately going to make me better at my job going forward.
Amazing. And finally, what type of feedback do you hear from other apprentices once they've completed their programme?
Yeah, so we have a little bit of an apprenticeship community where we all sort of keep in touch and support each other, and that can be made up of people who've completed the apprenticeship years ago but still stay in touch and act as a little bit of a coach or a buddy, and everyone really speaks positively about it. You often hear those success stories about how people have been able to get a new job as a result of what they've learned and developed within their apprenticeship, which is really, really amazing to hear. I think you always hear, when am I going to do the level 7? I think what I've learned is you get a little bit of a learning bug. And as you can tell, I've got that learning bug as I've started to do my level 7, and you're constantly craving those opportunities to continue with that learning even after the apprenticeship has finished.
Amazing. Great that those opportunities are there for you. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
No problem.
Thanks, Siobhan. I mean,
Thank you.
That's really great insight. I mean, and hopefully, guys, that gives you a bit of a realistic view as to how we sort of actually train and support and develop our colleagues here at Lloyds Banking Group. You know, we have colleagues that know almost nothing, you know, to become a fully fledged HR professional. So, you know, the apprenticeship that we use, and I can see we've got some questions coming in about the level 5 HR apprenticeship. It's exactly the same one that is used by hundreds of employers. You know, it's a professional program that's very, very well respected. And although you know, there's lots of things around that apprenticeship, you'd also do a project as well as part of that. So that will give you a bit more of a detailed sort of understanding of how HR works. So at the end of your apprenticeship, you'll actually finish with a qualification that's recognised by lots of employers as an experienced HR professional. Plus, of course, all that useful work experience that you've got on the job that you've actually gained in the process that will give you that confidence. So with that qualification and all that experience, you know, as Siobhan said, you know, you get the learning bug, and then, you know, we're here at Lloyds, we're really keen to support you, to help you to develop to the next stage of your career and open up, and not slam doors, and open up doors for you too. So there are some other colleagues that we want to introduce you to as well today, some of our other HR colleagues. We've got Hayley, Gary and Candice, and we're going to chat to them just about their own learning journey in a little bit more detail. How difficult is it to learn, what their jobs are really like, and what are some of the unexpected opportunities that getting skilled in this space opens up. So I'll sort of start with you then, Hayley. So thanks for joining us today, Hayley. I was going to ask you, hopefully I can see you, we can see you on the screen. So Hayley, what were you doing then before you started your HR apprenticeship?
Yeah, so I mean, I hadn't been in the HR function itself for very long before I started the HR apprenticeship, because I actually joined LBG via a different apprenticeship scheme. So I joined on the level 4 project management scheme. I did a stunt there and completed that apprenticeship for 2.5 years. And then, so I came from a different area of the group, and then I came along to the HR function itself. So yeah, I think after that, finishing that apprenticeship, like you say, the group just enables you to move about quite a bit. Like, you're not stuck to one thing, I guess. You can move about, and where I had those, I guess, more transferable skills, I thought that sounds like an interesting area to go learn and to go work in. So I moved across to HR, and then it was more applicable for me to also do my HR apprenticeship scheme. So definitely have used both those qualifications, I would say, since then. So yeah.
Yeah, so you've actually done 2 apprenticeships then, haven't you, Hayley? I mean, when you look back now, how do you feel about the choices that you've made since you joined us in LBG?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really, really happy that I went down the apprenticeship route rather than going to university. So like I said, I did join straight from school after I did my A-levels. And I just feel like, yeah, that was the right choice for me, probably. But I think looking back on it, it's kind of, as Siobhan mentioned, it's really great that we've been able to apply the knowledge that we're learning about real time and to the jobs that we're undertaking. So it really appealed to me, and it keeps you more engaged with your job as well sometimes, because the learning that you're doing is relevant to the role. So you can see, like you say, you're learning about the reward team, then like, oh, this is now coming up in my job, and let me match the two together, and I've got the physical learning as well as on the job learning. It's just really, really great.
Yeah. Oh, good. Well, it sounds like you're enjoying it, Hayley. One last question. How does this compare then to what you wanted to do when you left school? Did you know what you wanted to do?
No, I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do when I left school. And I think that's probably, like you say, like quite interesting, because I think that's why I didn't want to necessarily go to university, like my personal preference. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grow up. I'm still not sure what I want to do in the next 20 years. And I think that's okay. Like, university is still there if one day I change my mind and I can go back, but I didn't want to go before. And I've still managed to, like I say, learn new skills, 2 different apprenticeships. So I guess that's exactly what I've ended up doing. So yeah, so it has been good from that perspective. And like I say, LBG has really enabled me to kind of take my career down a different pathway than what I originally set out to do. But the group's been great in supporting me in doing that and helping me mix it up and apply my skills to somewhere new.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, thanks, Hayley. That's really interesting to hear your story. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to come to Gary next. So Gary, tell us about your job and what got you interested in working in HR.
Yeah, so I took a different route here to Siobhan and Hayley, and I guess when I started out in Lloyds, I didn't start in HR, but I think I got this curiosity for all things HR related, and I guess that's where 2 things really sprung to mind for me about HR and what I'd observed in my sort of early days with working within the groups. So seeing, I think, the breadth of opportunity you had to make a difference was probably the first thing. You know, the impact on the organisation and how you can influence stuff that's really critical for our people was probably the first thing that I observed. The other bit was just probably the opportunity to engage and be able to talk to people. You know, I think Siobhan and Hayley have both alluded to that in their own journey so far. That for me is a really big lure to HR, and you know, that opportunity to interact on a wide range of topics. And just look, I love talking, right? So it was for me an absolute winner all day, just to be able to go and start to enjoy a role and take that on, where it's something I really enjoyed doing. So that's probably the first part. I suppose it comes back to me a little bit to how Heather was talking earlier on about people being our most precious resource. And I think when you're working in HR, you have a real opportunity, and I've seen this now actually being in the role, but I observed this early on in my time before I joined HR, that you have the opportunity to create a really positive environment for others, to let people thrive in what they do, help people develop, feel motivated. And you know, sometimes there's dealing with conflict and challenge, but all of it is just endless opportunities. And I think if you want to make a difference, and I certainly did, I know straight away I just wanted to be a part of that.
Yeah, and I mean, it sounds like that you're really passionate about what you do, Gary. Are are any 2 days the same? Like, is it exciting? Is it boring? What is it like?
If only, if only. Definitely never. Is that a saying? I'm not sure of it. Never boring. You could be problem solving one day. You could be coaching a line manager the next. You may be collaborating with the business on something, you know, a topic of some sort. You could be running like a recruitment campaign. I guess it's every day is different, right? It could be very challenging, not going to lie, but equally, it always leave you, or certainly me, feeling as if I've made a huge impact, and it's absolutely rewarding. And you know, anyone that's on this call that's contemplating a career in HR, you know, there's so much you can invest in and involve yourself in that makes a real difference.
Brilliant. Well, I think great, Gary. I'd love to chat to you a bit more, but we haven't got time for that. I know we're between us, we both like a chat, so that's not a good combination. But I'm going to come on. I'm going to come on to Candice next, who's another one of our colleagues. Hi, Candice. Thanks for joining us today. Candice, I'm really pleased that you've joined us, because you only joined Lloyds Banking Group last year, didn't you? So tell us a little bit about what you were doing when you joined beforehand.
So, right, yeah, so I did. I joined last year to the group externally from a different organisation. And if I start with just like a little bit about myself as well, if I can tease that in, and how my passion was essentially born. So 16, working in Gap Retail and the N1 Islington, and was asked to help colleagues in terms of their induction and their onboarding. And I was like, oh, I've got to do extra work. And I was like, and then, you know, actually getting on and actually helping them, showing on the till, showing them how to work with customers, etc. That is how my passion for HR was born, right? It then led from retail to retail HR, and then into the financial sector in employee relations specifically. So sometimes when situations maybe don't go the way we kind of think they might, we're there to help, be it the employees themselves, be it the line managers themselves, in terms of upskilling. And that's how I landed in employee relations and ran the function prior to joining the HR team at Lloyds LBG last year, June. So that's my little story there.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you had a lot of transferable skills then that you've brought into Lloyds Banking Group, Candice. I mean, what sort of skills would you say are ones that a person would need to sort of thrive working with us?
Sure. And I think we might have heard it a couple of times this evening, but stay curious is like my first thing. Keep that curiosity about you. Ask, you know, why things exist the way they are. And then be confident is the second. Be confident to say, okay, now I've got an understanding of this. Maybe using my learning, actually, we could try it this way. I've seen success in organisations doing it that way, and maybe this is what we need to be doing, or this is what our people need. Just looking, being curious, number one, and then looking for opportunities to improve, number two. And then third and final is one of our values, putting people first, right? And for us, our customer is our colleagues, right? And we need to make sure we're putting our colleagues, our line managers first, doing the best thing to help them thrive and be the best they can be for LBG to help Britain prosper.
Brilliant. That's great, Candice. Lovely to hear from you. And like I say, it just shows, doesn't it, how those skills are transferable, but there's certain things that really sort of obviously stood you in really good stead there. So thanks for joining us today. Heather, I'm going to hand back to you to keep us back on track on the timings.
Thank you so much. It's so good to hear all your stories, even though I know you all. I've learned some things. So when you're thinking about your future career, there is so much to consider, and I know you'll all be thinking about lots of different things and lots of different options. Not just what you're going to do, but who you're going to work for, or whether you'd like to work for yourself, whether you want to work for a big corporate like Lloyds. When you're looking for an apprenticeship, you also have to decide what kind of company will suit you. Now, obviously, we would like you to go work for Lloyds, because we think Lloyds is a very special company. It's a very friendly company, and there's lots of opportunity. We've talked about all of the reasons why we think it's a place where people love to come to work. But one way of kind of narrowing down the field when you're thinking about where you want to work and who you want to work for is a company's broader purpose and values. So this can often give you kind of clues as to what a company and the people you'll be working with really care about. Candice talked about one of our values just then, people first. But at Lloyds, we look after the finances of almost a third of everyone who lives here in the UK. That's approximately 30 million people. It's our responsibility to help Britain prosper. That is in our DNA, and we take that incredibly seriously in everything we do. Even if when we work in HR, actually, we're a few steps removed from the end customer. It's all the way through everything that we do, all the way through the organisation. So we're just going to have a quick glimpse now of just one of the activities that our apprentices can get involved in fostering the skills and talent of future leaders who are currently still in school.
Hi, I'm Mark from Lloyds. I work in the People and Places part of the business. It's great to welcome the Future Leaders students here today at Old Broad Street in London.
I really enjoyed my trip to the Lloyds Tower today because we got to see a lot of different colleagues who worked here, a lot of different roles that they had.
It's made me feel confident speaking to new employees.
They've had a fantastic session. We talk about skills, how, the CV part.
It gave me an insight on how to come across when it comes to interviews. As before, I didn't really know how to really present myself when it came to interviews.
We also learned how to sort of identify any key skills that we may have.
This experience has been very eye-opening for me, as I've been able to know my strengths and weaknesses.
It made me more mindful of the values which I have as an individual. So they were talking about a personal brand, and it really makes me more confident in myself.
At Future Leaders, we are passionate about working with young people from underrepresented backgrounds, closing the opportunity gap and giving them experiences that help them secure their post-18 pathways. Today at Lloyds Bank was exactly about that, where they got to meet with a range of professionals, develop their skills, their personal brand and their growth mindset to ensure that they are prepared for their next steps.
Future Leaders are a great organisation. It's great to work with them, and we look forward to further collaborations with Future Leaders and Lloyds Bank.
Brilliant. So, like I say, that just gives you a bit of an idea of some of the things that you can get involved in working at Lloyds Banking Group. So, hopefully you're getting a bit more of a flavour now of what HR professionals do to help an organisation and its people grow and realise the best and get the absolute best out of everybody. But we are all human, you go out to work, that really can impact your daily working life. So there's lots of things in the outside world that impact how we work. So how we respond to that and how your company supports you is really, really important. You can always potentially look at which organisation pays you the highest salary, but look at things like employer policies and family-friendly policies and things like that. And also, as Heather was saying about the values of the organisation are really important. But this is the bit where I mentioned earlier, we're going to do a little bit of a simulation of some real scenarios, just to say these are the sorts of things that our people managers will face every day. So the names have been changed for the purpose of tonight's live stream. But this is just the sort of thing that's quite commonplace. We were talking about the other skills and things that sometimes it's not always easy decisions, etc. So I'm going to give you your chance to try your hand at solving some of these HR dilemmas in people management. So the story starts like this. We've got James. He joined Lloyds 3 years ago as a graduate trainee. He has had good performance reviews from all his line managers, and he's really doing well in his career. So his line manager, in his last performance review, said that he was actually ready for progressing to the next management level. However, recently he's noticed James's performance is not quite what it used to be. So other people that have worked with James, his colleagues, have said he's a bit distracted. Some of his stakeholders have mentioned he's a bit late sometimes for meetings, sometimes in the morning, or he's cancelling meetings at last minute. So we've got Kim. Now, Kim is James's line manager, and she's also noticed that he's being looking a bit tired, less energetic. So what do you think Kim should do? So you've got two choices. You've got A, Kim should bring James into a meeting as his line manager and reiterate what we're expecting from his performance. And basically, if he doesn't sort of pull his socks up, his promotion's going to be out the window if he doesn't improve things. Or B, Kim should make time to take James to one side somewhere quietly and gently inquire about the changes that she's seeing. So if you can put in the chat whether you think it should be option A or B, we'll see what responses we get. Oh, a lot of B's. Good to see a lot of B's. So no one so far. Yes, Oliver, you've got some. I couldn't see everything that you said, but basically everyone's saying B, which is what Kim chooses to do. So that's great. You're getting the feel for this now. So Heather, you've got the next dilemma.
The story continues. So first, James is reluctant to talk about things. So he becomes defensive, starts to blame the volume of his workload, the fact that his co-workers are unsupported. He says he's starting to feel like Lloyds is no longer a place that he wants to work at. He's going to start looking for jobs elsewhere. So what should Kim do now? Should she, A, accept that James has reached the end of his time with Lloyds, and if he's disengaged, then maybe he'll be happier with another company? Or B, does Kim inquire about the changes that she has seen in James over the past 2 months and the reasons why, indicating that she very much valued the old James and wanted to understand what has changed and if there's any way that she could be more supportive than she is? So A or B? Very quick. Very quick. Lots of B's. I don't think we made this scenario complex enough, Elaine.
Oh, well, let's see how they go as it pans out. But I think it's fair to say B is what Kim chooses, which is good approach for Kim. So James has started to open up a little bit now, and he explains that 2 months ago, unfortunately, he had some bad news about his mother, who was ill, and she's needed some treatment, and potentially he's had to help out with sort of caring a little bit for her at home. The other thing that James has said is he left home for university when school finished, and he now lives in the opposite end of the country to where his mother lives, alone. So he has got a sister. She works for an airline and she's here, there and everywhere. So he's really worried about his mother, and he's worried about losing his job now and everything that he's worked so hard to achieve. So think about whether Kim should do option A or option B. So option A is Kim should make sure that James is not alone, and he knows that the counselling service that Lloyds provides to all of its colleagues 24/7, let him know about that. And if James needs to take time off to speak to a counsellor, that will be okay. She should also inquire how James sees the next few months panning out, and understand what the demands are going to be on him as a carer. Not taking any particular actions at this point, just understanding from James's point of view what the facts are. That was a long A. Now B is she should remind him that he is an important part of the team, but they do have some critical projects to land. So what he needs to do is go off and read on the internal internet what the support is that the bank can offer. And I've got a keen person already there. But at the end of the day, he does need to commit to the delivery of his work now. Otherwise, you're going to have to give his work to somebody else. Yeah, you're on it, guys. Yep, the answer is A. So last dilemma then. Back to you, Heather, to explain the last step in this story.
James explains to him that at the moment, his mother's consultant doesn't know how the treatment plan will work, but there'll be an initial period in hospital and then time at home to recover and recuperate. James starts to break down and tells him that he's overwhelmed by the new challenges outside of work, and he's worried about meeting everybody's expectations. He's concerned that having invested in his career through the graduate scheme, the only option available to him is to resign, to move back home, to look after his mother. So what should Kim do? Should she ensure that James makes this big decision himself and that she doesn't influence his decision? Remind him of his responsibilities to the bank and that his future career could be threatened if his performance starts to deteriorate further? And highlight the support available through the bank in the form of a counselling service that James should take advantage of, and agree a leave of absence for 1 week for James to sort out his affairs before returning to work? Or should she support James in exploring the options available to him? So given that the bank has offices near to where his mother lives and that James has a laptop, can Kim discuss the potential for James to work from another office and from his mother's home while he adjusts to his career caring responsibilities, and also walk through all the additional support for James during that period? So A or B? So loads and loads of B's coming through. Yeah, so Kim also agrees to look at making some adjustments. So varying James's working hours, working patterns over the initial period of time until he better understands what's required of him as a carer. She will put in weekly check-ins with James, that she stays up to date with the changing situation, can make new plans. So absolutely all about working together. And that is one of the many dilemmas that our line managers will face, and that our HR teams will be advising line managers on how to navigate those conversations. Because while we're all answering the questions really quickly and they seem so obvious to us, in the moment, those conversations are really difficult. They're quite sophisticated. They're very sensitive, particularly when somebody doesn't want to open up. We have a duty of care and a responsibility to work together with colleagues to navigate situations like this and help balance their well-being in amongst all of the things that life throws at us. And HR is here to help support line managers to face into those conversations. Elaine, I'm going to hand back over to you.
Yeah, that's all right. I mean, like you say, Heather, all of those decisions needed careful thought. I mean, what happened to James? Well, James actually did decide to take up the offer to relocate to be with his mum during her recovery. He was able to take advantage of the employee assistance support that was offered by Lloyds to learn about options for longer term support for his mum. Also, in the meantime, he's spreading his time in the office and working from home. He was able to really be connected at work still with his colleagues and deliver on his work projects. So really what Kim had put in place really did support James. You know, he actually was successful for a promotion based in his new office. He felt comfortable talking openly about his role as a carer at his interview, and his new job allows him to work flexibly as he's quickly building new friendships and making his mum proud. So life will never be the same for James, but during a difficult time, the most important thing is that he has felt supported and he's never been alone. And, you know, this is just like Heather said, just some examples really, but we have to make sure that the way that companies behave respects employment law. But also in this case, Kim actually worked hard to recognise the investment in James's training and development and help to find a solution that worked for everyone. So over to you, Heather.
So if you are in year 9 or year 10, your head is probably filled with thinking about your GCSEs because they are the biggest thing ahead of you. And that's perfectly understandable. When I was finishing my GCSEs, the only choices were A-levels. Was mostly expected that I'd go off to university, off to college. I mentioned earlier that we have a number of live vacancies that are open for applications at the moment. We actually have 7 roles being advertised in HR, which might not sound like a lot, but it's 7 more than we had last year. And it's a really exciting time for us because these are brand new apprenticeship roles that we are advertising. So the deadline, I think Ian had put this into the chat a while ago, but the deadline is the end of this week. If you're watching this on record, it's the 4th of April 2023. And we've got a range of roles available across our colleague relations and people policy teams. So they are the teams that work with our unions, work with our people policy team, work on people policy development and application. We have roles in the reward team, working on all of the compensation and benefits opportunities that are available to our colleagues. We have roles in Colleague Connect, which is the HR advisory team, and that is where our very own Gary and Candice work. We also have roles in people partnering, which is where Siobhan and I work, so partnering into the business, building, influencing the business and working with the business to invest in their people through the relationships that we have with senior leaders. So have a look on our careers site, check out the roles available, stick in an application and see how you get on.
Brilliant, thanks Heather. Well, I think we've hopefully got people all excited now about their potential new career as an HR professional. So you probably will have some questions about how we at Lloyds Banking Group actually recruit people from the outside into these roles, and what the application and assessment process is like. And so it's one of the most common things that people ask me. So I wanted to just share with you a little bit more detail about that today. You do find that major organisations do tend to follow the same sort of approach. So like I say, generally on what we call a higher apprenticeship, which is like these level 5 ones, you'd be asked for A levels plus maths and English GCSEs. Predicted grades are okay in terms of the A levels. As part of our recruitment process, we're really keen that we don't want anybody to miss out on an opportunity. So if you haven't got the maths and English at grade C or above, then we would actually still consider your application and support you to gain maths and English qualifications through the apprenticeship. So that's something to bear in mind. There are actually 3 stages in the application process at Lloyds Banking Group. So the first step is an application and online assessment. And that is normally just to assess your strengths and your mathematical skills. So you might do some situational judgment tests. When you think about some of the dilemmas that we've looked at, it's not that dissimilar from that. The second step, as you would expect, is an interview. And we're not, at this stage, it can either be a face-to-face, a phone or a video interview. And at the moment, we're still remaining with using Microsoft Teams for things like interviews, etc. So they're not actually face-to-face at the moment. Now, if it was a level 3 apprenticeship or a level 2 that you're applying for, that actually would be the final stage of the process. But for level 4 apprenticeships and above, such as these HR ones, the next stage, if you get through to it, and the final stage is inviting you to an assessment day. And this is something that we are also currently holding virtually. So you don't have to go off anywhere. So our assessment day is made up of a further interview and a series of challenges. So within the day, you'll have an individual interview, and that is more strengths-based. And you'll hear me keep saying, it's not about your experience. We're not into all of that. It's always about you and what your strengths are. So you'll have an interview about that. But then also there'll be a group activity. What we tend to do is put you in groups of between 3 and 10. It's often a team building exercise or a problem solving type of activity. And what we're looking for is just to see how well you do work in a group with others, whether you lead the discussion, whether you're inclusive. Do you bring other people in? So if you think about, I don't know if any of you watch the TV show The Apprentice, it's basically the opposite of that when they get given a task because you know what it's like. It's like people always wanting to be in the front, not bringing other people into, all competing against each other. Our assessment days are really not like that. You know, you actually meet a lot of nice other candidates and stuff on there, but it is really looking at how you interact with each other and whether you are inclusive and work well with other people. And the last bit is a presentation. So you normally would have to do like a 5 to 10 minute presentation in front of interviewers. It's not anything you can prepare for. You know, I can't say this is the topic, go and read up on it. It's, you know, we will give you all of those details at the appropriate time. And then after that, if you are successful, we'll make you an offer to join the apprenticeship. Now, my biggest tip across all of our application processes, please just be yourself. If you share our vision and you're eager to learn, then we absolutely want to hear from you. And as I said, remember at Lloyds Banking Group, we don't recruit people on their experience. We recruit people on their strengths. So you have literally as much chance as anybody else who applies. So, you know, don't let a lack of experience hold you back, because we will teach you everything that you need to know. So yeah, there's some tips there.
Thanks, Elaine. So how can we only have a few minutes left? How is the time flowing? Before we go, we're just going to have a quick final poll, which is the same question you asked at the beginning. So on a scale of 1 to 5, now, if 5 is the most confident, how well do you understand careers in HR and people? And this is really a test of you and I, Elaine.
Well, what can I say, Heather? Oh, it's all up there.
Okay.
Brilliant. Yeah, we'll take that. Very nice.
Good. Okay. Mostly fours. And like I say, I wouldn't even say out of 5 because there's so many facets to HR. So yeah, fabulous.
Brilliant. Okay, I'm going to close that. As we said, Heather, we haven't really got long now, but we don't want you to leave tonight without providing you with some really useful websites and resources to help you on your journey. So there's a lot of info that's going to be coming up on your screen. So you can hold up your phone and scan the QR codes or download the links that are in the chat. So Gareth is pressing buttons for us. So up first is the Lloyds Banking Group Talent website. This is a treasure trove of information all about roles in Lloyds, apprenticeships, graduate schemes and current vacancies. So there's also the Association for Apprenticeships and Amazing Apprenticeships. Now, both of these websites give you a lot of insight around apprenticeships and how to find them, whatever employer or career sector that you are thinking of. So they're really, really useful for anybody who's interested in any sort of apprenticeship at all. And then lastly, what I would say is if you have missed any of the previous Lloyds Live sessions or you'd like to rewind tonight's event, for anything that you've missed, you can catch the replay of this and all of the other sessions on our Lloyds Banking Group Careers YouTube channel. You can book your space right now and we'll send a reminder closer to the time.
Elaine, it's been a fantastic evening. Really good hearing from all our guests. We are officially handing the baton over for our session in May. It's always the first Tuesday of the month. And for May, that's Tuesday, the 2nd of May, we will be exploring careers in banking.
Yeah, I think we've started working on that one well into the plan. So like I say, if you have missed anything, then you can replay them all again when you want on our YouTube channel.
And as we arrive at 7, look at our timing. It's time for all of us to say goodbye for now. So from all of us here at Lloyds Banking Group, we wish you the very best. And we wish you every success with wherever your career takes you. And we'll hopefully see you next month for another Careers Live.
Yes, thank you guys.
Bye for now.
Thanks, bye.
What does success mean to us?
Success is making a difference.
For our customers and our communities.
Success is empowering people from the start.
Building their confidence.
Giving them tools to start their careers.
Success is putting our people first.
It's knowing when to listen.
And making the time to talk.
Success is supporting causes we care about.
It's getting involved.
All hands on deck.
Success is making banking better.
It's engineering a fairer future.
Making progress and leaving no one behind.
Whatever shape it takes.
Success starts with us.